Now, Georgia obviously has become more of a purple state almost in the last couple of years here. Obviously, the state elected 2 Democratic senators. And, I wonder what your view on the state's trajectory is, especially when it comes to gun rights. Do you think that Democrats having those sort of statewide successes will lead to more energy for gun control proposals, or are you shifting focus? I mean, it seems like you're going with constitutional carry. That's something that a lot of gun rights activists want. It doesn't poll super well, but obviously it's a very cherished thing among a lot of gun voters. So do you see a lot of forward progress being made for the gun owning community in Georgia, or do you see some a high tide coming for the gun control group movement there?
Well, look, that's a great question. I would tell people Georgia's not a purple state. The last election from a federal standpoint, it was a disaster. I was frustrated like a lot of other people with the results here, with the president, with our 2 U.S. senators. But I also think you got to realize that November 3rd, 2020, our legislators that were on the ballot at the same time these races were going on had really a great night. There was a lot of talk that the Democrats would take control of the Georgia State House. They weren't even close to doing that. They were supposed to pick up 2 or 3 seats in the Georgia State Senate. They picked up 0. We beat the minority leader, an incumbent, leader of the Democrats in the state house, and we beat an incumbent state senator. We lost a really tough race in a district that had changed, but still we knocked off one in the Senate to have a net gain. We had a Republican that won statewide on November 3rd when all that was going on. So to me, it just tells us that, I think we're a 52-48 red state. The Senate runoffs here were just a disaster just for a lot of different reasons. But I think the lesson to me is, look, we got to run. We can't just call the other side, radicals and socialists and whatever name politicians are using. We got to give Georgians a reason to vote for us. And the reason I think they're going to vote for me is because I've been delivering on the promises that I won the last election on. Focusing on education, public safety, health care, strong economy, but also standing up for our principles to continue to have Georgia the best state to live, work, and raise a family. And, to me, that was a good lesson for us. I mean, obviously there was mechanical issues with the election that we saw, and we dealt with that a year ago to now have the strongest Elections Integrity Act in the country, like I mentioned earlier. And now we're focused this session on kitchen table issues that Georgians care about, whether it's, supporting the Second Amendment, supporting our law enforcement. We're putting more money into the Georgia Bureau of Investigation and the Attorney General's office to go after street gangs and violent crime and human trafficking. So we're standing with our law enforcement. When you have people like Stacey Abrams on the other side, they want to defund the police. So all those kind of issues I think are going to make voters look at this with a holistic view. And, when it comes to the polling on constitutional carry and Second Amendment stuff, I'll be honest with you, I'm not very trustworthy of that polling, because when you look at gun sales, I was talking to Marty Daniel at Daniel Defense about this the other day. A lot of the most first-time home buyers that we're seeing now, which is a lot of them, they're minorities and they're females. I mean, I talked to an elderly lady in the outdoor adventure store, did a little shopping after we got finished with our announcement, and she was in there buying ammunition. And I said, what are you buying ammunition for? And she told me, and she said, I bought a gun 2 years ago. And I said, well, how often do you shoot? She goes, I go to the range every week. She said, I took a class. I'm a single, elderly person, so I got a handgun for self-protection, but I took a class, got educated, and I love going to shoot. I shoot once a week, and that's why I'm here. I'm getting more ammo. So, that's a person that probably didn't really care about this issue a couple of years ago that now does.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting point. So with a lot of Georgia Democrats, including especially Stacey Abrams, shifting more towards gun control policies and being more favorable towards them than perhaps Democrats in the state used to be, and you see this also with Senators Warnock and Ossoff have both supported very vigorously gun control legislation and policies. Do you view that then as a mistake on the part of the Democratic Party in Georgia? Do you think it's going to come back to bite them?
Well, we'll see. I think it's going to be interesting to see how the Democrats in the legislature vote. There's a lot of them that are in really tough districts, swing districts, if you will. And that issue, especially for those that are in certain parts of the state, is going to be a very tricky issue for them. So we'll see what they end up doing. I mean, it wouldn't surprise them if they all lock down and vote against it. But look, the election will tell. I mean, we're fighting for our values here. That's what this campaign is going to be about. We got to get our base to turn out. There's a lot of people that have turned on the policies of President Biden and Senator Warnock and Senator Ossoff, whether it's the amount of spending, how ridiculous the spending's been with formulas tied to the unemployment rate that punishes states like Georgia, Florida, Texas, and, other states around us like South Carolina, Tennessee that have done well, kept their economies open. We're getting penalized in the funding formula. So you see more money going to New York and California and New Jersey. I know that probably doesn't surprise any of your listeners that are out there, but like those kind of things are real issues that we'll be able to talk about in our state. And not to mention, that they want to take our guns away while they're also just letting people flood across the southern border down there in McAllen, Texas. I mean, we've got over 100 Georgia National Guard that's been down there for well over a year now trying to help the Border Patrol. It's just outmanned and doesn't have near the support that they need from this current administration in Washington. And I think people are tired of that. And they've seen real quick that what happened in 2020 has been a disaster for our country. And it's time for us to right the ships in the midterms. And quite honestly, that's going to be the playbook for how we win the presidency back in 2024. And Georgia's going to be a big part of that. And I'm looking forward to being on the team that sets the way in November of 2022.